Operations in Mosul, 2016 to 2017. In the ruins of Mosul, where ISIS once declared its so-called caliphate in 2014, a brutal and methodical battle unfolded between 2016 and 2017 that would decide the fate of Iraq's second-largest city. The Battle of Mosul was not just a military operation to liberate a city under ISIS control. It was a complex, high-stakes campaign that pitted a fragile coalition of Iraqi forces, Kurdish Peshmerga, US-led coalition forces, and Iranian-backed Shia militias against a fanatical and entrenched enemy. For Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, Mosul was more than a battlefield. It was an opportunity to cement its influence in Iraq, showcase the power of its proxy militias, and ensure that the future of Iraq would be firmly aligned with Tehran's strategic objectives. By 2016, ISIS had turned Mosul into the heart of its so-called caliphate, ruling the city with an iron fist and using it as a base to project power across Iraq and Syria. The fall of Mosul to ISIS had been a catastrophic blow to Iraq's stability and a humiliating reminder of the Iraqi army's inability to defend its own territory. But by late 2016, with ISIS weakened and on the defensive, the time had come for Iraq's fragmented coalition of forces to launch a decisive offensive to reclaim the city. The IRGC saw in Mosul not just a chance to defeat ISIS, but an opportunity to expand its control over Iraq's security apparatus and entrench its influence in the country's future. The IRGC's strategy for Mosul was multifaceted, combining direct involvement with a heavy reliance on its vast network of Shia militias under the umbrella of the Popular Mobilization Forces, PMF, or Hashd al-Shabi. The PMF, a coalition of Iran-backed militias that included Kataib Hezbollah, Asaib al-Haq, the Badr organization, and other battle-hardened groups, had become Iran's most effective instrument of influence in Iraq. These militias, trained, armed, and ideologically aligned with Iran, were poised to play a central role in the battle for Mosul. General Qasem Soleimani, the charismatic and ruthless commander of the IRGC's Quds force, took personal charge of coordinating Iran's role in the Mosul operation. Soleimani, whose ability to mobilize and command proxy forces had been honed on battlefields across Iraq and Syria, saw Mosul as a critical juncture in Iran's quest to dominate Iraq's post-ISIS landscape. His goal was clear: ensure that Iran's proxies emerged from the battle stronger, more entrenched, and positioned to shape Iraq's future. As the battle for Mosul began in October 2016, the IRGC's strategy came into focus. While the Iraqi army and US-backed coalition forces focused on the grueling urban warfare required to reclaim Mosul's densely populated western districts, the PMF was tasked with securing the surrounding areas, cutting off ISIS's escape routes, and tightening the noose around the city. The IRGC's plan was not just to defeat ISIS, but to control the territory surrounding Mosul, ensuring that Iran's proxies held sway over key supply lines, border crossings, and strategic corridors linking Iraq to Syria. The IRGC's involvement in Mosul was not limited to logistical and tactical support. Iranian advisors, many of them veterans of the Iran-Iraq War, were embedded with PMF units, providing real-time battlefield intelligence, coordinating artillery strikes, and directing ground operations. The IRGC's expertise in asymmetric warfare and urban combat, honed through years of experience in Syria and Lebanon, was instrumental in shaping the PMF's tactics and ensuring their effectiveness on the battlefield. One of the most significant contributions of the IRGC to the Mosul campaign was its role in securing the western flank of the city and cutting off ISIS's supply lines to Syria. As the Iraqi army and US-led coalition forces advanced into Mosul from the east, the PMF, under IRGC supervision, launched a parallel offensive to encircle ISIS forces and prevent their escape into Syria's Deir ez-Zor province. This encirclement was critical to the success of the Mosul operation, ensuring that ISIS fighters were trapped and unable to regroup or reinforce their positions. As the battle intensified, the IRGC's influence became increasingly visible. The PMF's presence on the outskirts of Mosul was not just about defeating ISIS. It was about ensuring that Iran's proxies controlled the territory once the battle was over. By establishing a stronghold in areas surrounding Mosul, the IRGC was able to create a buffer zone that extended Iran's influence deep into northern Iraq, giving Tehran control over key transit routes and border crossings that connected Iraq to Syria and beyond. The fall of Mosul in July 2017 was hailed as a decisive victory against ISIS, but for the IRGC, it was much more than that. The successful recapture of Mosul validated Iran's strategy of using proxy militias to achieve its geopolitical objectives and demonstrated the effectiveness of the IRGC's model of asymmetric warfare. With Mosul liberated, Iran's proxies had not only secured control over key strategic corridors, but had also gained political legitimacy as protectors of Iraq's security, paving the way for their integration into Iraq's official security apparatus. However, the IRGC's victory in Mosul came at a significant cost. The battle had left the city in ruins, with thousands of civilians killed and millions displaced. The devastation wrought by the battle, coupled with the sectarian excesses of Iranian-backed militias, deepened the divide between Iraq's Sunni and Shia communities. Reports of atrocities committed by the PMF, including extrajudicial killings, torture, and forced displacement of Sunni civilians, fueled resentment and anger, creating fertile ground for future insurgencies. The IRGC's heavy-handed tactics in Mosul also had broader geopolitical consequences. Iran's growing influence in Iraq alarmed Saudi Arabia and the Gulf states, intensifying sectarian tensions and fueling proxy conflicts across the region. The United States, while focused on defeating ISIS, watched with growing concern as Iran tightened its grip on Iraq and used the battle for Mosul as a springboard to extend its influence across the Middle East. For the IRGC, however, the strategic gains far outweighed the costs. The victory in Mosul had secured Iran's land corridor to Syria, strengthened its hold over Iraq's security forces, and positioned its proxies as kingmakers in Iraq's post-ISIS political landscape. The battle had demonstrated Iran's ability to project power beyond its borders, mobilize loyal militias to serve its interests, and reshape the regional balance of power in its favor. In the aftermath of Mosul's liberation, the IRGC's influence in Iraq only deepened. The PMF, now firmly entrenched in Iraq's security structure, operated with impunity and wielded enormous political and military power. Iran's control over Iraq's security architecture gave Tehran a decisive advantage in shaping Iraq's future, ensuring that Iraq remained firmly within Iran's orbit. The Battle of Mosul was not just a fight to liberate a city from ISIS. It was a defining moment in Iran's quest for regional dominance. Through its calculated use of proxy militias, asymmetric warfare, and sectarian manipulation, the IRGC had not only crushed ISIS, but had also secured a strategic victory that would reverberate across the Middle East for years to come. For Iran, Mosul was not just a battlefield. It was a stepping stone to hegemony, and the IRGC had once again proven that its influence in the region was unshakable.